This is
Oh, it started.
Sunday school, and to
Yeah, about time.
all angels sings and round us rings the music of the saints.
Matt Donnelly.
Brothers and sisters, welcome to Penn Sunday School. We're still broadcasting live from Scoopfest, Las Vegas 2017. It's not that long of a festival, it's just the odd way we record. Coming up, Penn's going to talk about Richard Turner's appearance as a foolish fool at the Penn and Teller Theater. Plus, Penn and Matt had coffee and talked to a waitress. Here he is, preaching the love, Penn Gillette.
Here I am at Scoopfest. I like Scoopfest. I do like this. I would have never thought of doing something this great, bringing everybody together here. It's really nice. Food trucks are out there. Everything's illin' and chillin' like little Bobby Dylan. I'm happy with it.
Yeah, I like it. We did it this year all under one roof and just had everything here the whole time. Put a game room in the back, and it's been a big, giant slumber party. It's been real nice.
It's nice, yeah. And you said there's a lot of sexual hookups happening?
Yeah. You can just smell it.
Speaking of the sense of smell, Richard Turner came to see. I actually am. I'm self-conscious around Richard Turner when my stomach growls a little, or any sort of belch or anything. I'm going, boy, I'm not misdirected by him seeing things. He is blind. And Richard Turner is, I guess, probably, Steve Forte maybe, probably the greatest card mechanic alive today.
Yeah.
And probably the greatest card mechanics that ever lived are alive today. So he's great. And I walk backstage. I'm out playing bass. And Richard Turner is backstage with Teller, because Richard Turner, even though he has a great sense of hearing, does not care about jazz, I suppose. He's backstage with Teller. And he was doing something. I don't want to give too much away, but I want to give some away. He was telling Teller explicitly how he was doing the trick.
Wow.
He was explaining it in detail and then giving Teller how he did it, and Teller still couldn't figure it out. So he explained how the trick was done. Teller then watched him, and Teller still couldn't see how it was done. It was an amazing thing to watch.
Wow.
Teller had his nose about 4 inches from Richard Turner's hands after Richard Turner explained what he was doing, and Teller couldn't see it. Teller was moving around, all around him, like close-up, trying to see it, and could not see it. He was also, because many people think that he might be using gimmick cards.
Right.
He opened a Penn and Teller deck, which is also cheap cards, because we're selling them, trying to make a profit. Richard Turner's cards, incidentally, are made specifically for him from the U.S. Playing Card Company, because he has a position at the U.S. Playing Card Company, which is some sort of texture expert, okay? And most cards are struck, the die, they're in one sheet, all the cards, 56 or whatever would be a square. What's a square? What's a square that's around 50? Shut you up, didn't I? It's not 52, but it's another number in the 50s.
What is it? 56. He said that already, miss. What is it?
So it's done on sheets of 56 cards. That's why you get your extra advertising cards and everything else. And then a die comes in and goes poof, poof, and chops them all out, and they all fall in like cookie cutters, right? Now, if you go from the top down or the bottom up, it makes a difference in where the slight ragged edge of the card is. Richard Turner likes them done the other way so that they're perfect. And they printed up 100,000 decks that way for him. So his handling is perfect. Our cards are done on cheaper stock, and we don't care how they're punched. So he pulls out a Penn and Teller deck, which we're sure is not gimmicked. I mean, it's gimmicked to the tits, but it's gimmicked for tricks he's not doing, okay?
Right.
It's also it's marked, which is useless to a blind guy.
Sure.
He then does those tricks with those cards. Mind-blowing. He goes out on stage and does a set after Pushinitska.
Yes.
Andre.
Really, there's a lot of P on that. That was good.
Pushinitska, yeah. Pushinitska does a really good job, and then he's followed by Richard Turner. Okay, Eddie Van Halen's coming out. Good. Oh, now Jimi Hendrix. And Jimi Hendrix is blind. He comes out. And Richard Turner, because he's so wicked hip, I said to him, now, do you say in what you say that you're blind? Or should I say it during the introduction? He says, you don't have to bother saying, it's nothing to do with the trick.
Oh.
I said it anyway because I'm showbiz whore. I know good showbiz when I hear it.
Yeah.
He knows I know that. False humility. So, so then he goes backstage, and Pushnik Andre has his deck that he fooled us with, that he's going to do a thing or two with. He's just about to show something, and then Richard Turner walks in the room, and he puts the cards down as though he was 12 years old holding a Playboy. He just thinks...
I'm sleeping.
Yeah. And Richard Turner starts doing tricks. And Andre and Teller are on their knees in front of him, getting 3 inches from his hands, trying to see the move. And then he deals seconds. Okay, he's dealing seconds. Seconds are hard to deal. He turns I think he did this on our show too, but seeing it up close is amazing. He turns the top card face up. And then he starts dealing. And that top face-up card stays there, which means he's dealing seconds. And you can't see it. It's invisible. You are as blind to it as he is. And then he shows you, most guys who deal seconds hold the deck special. Just put it in my hand any way you want, and he just deals seconds. And then he starts telling us how you deal seconds badly and what people can see. You see, if you deal like this, you can see that little edge there, that 16th of an inch? People can see that. I can't. Neither can he. That's a bad set. He deals perfect seconds right along there, okay? And then he's astonishing, and he knows everything about cards, and he's a fabulous guy. And then Teller says goodnight, okay? And Andre Pushinitska
Perfect.
says so long, and he splits. And Jonesy's already gone to watch some movie or something with Zeke. And it's like, I think me and maybe one other person in the room, in the monkey room backstage. And his son is there too. His son, you know his son? You know what his son's name is? Richard Turner's son is named Asa, A-S-A, middle name Spades. Take that, CBS Morning Show. Crime Fighter's a stupid name. Fuck you in the neck, so is Susan. I may not mention this, but you make fun of my daughter's name, there'll be retribution.
Of course.
You'll just wait. Someday I'll be on CBS Morning Show and say, what's your middle name? You wait to see what happens after that. Okay.
Oh, man.
But anyway,
Another teaser. You're getting really good at these.
Ace of Spades Turner is there in the room.
Yeah.
He's going to college, computer programmer. And he's there to say, by the way, which I think is great, he says, as Richard Turner's gathering up the cards, he goes, Dad, one of the cards turned face up, and runs over and turns it back face down. That's his job, as far as I can tell, to the son. So Richard Turner says to me, I heard you cut your hair. And I said, yes. And he says, may I feel, because I can't see. And I say, certainly. And Richard Turner stands up and starts feeling my head, which is fine, actually very, very pleasant. And then he has got me. He's now touching me physically. He now knows where I am, okay? This is all important. He does this, I'm gonna do this to you, Matt, because this is a thing. Come here, Matt. He does, come a little closer. He says, can I feel your hair? Say it.
Can I feel your hair?
No, I say that. You say
okay.
yes.
Yes.
And he does this. That's a very nice haircut. And I say,
thank you.
right. And then he does this. You tell him what I'm doing.
Oh, he's basically massaging my shoulders, patting me on the shoulders,
Gets up close.
hugging me tight.
Gets up close,
Nice close.
right to my face.
Yeah.
Because now he knows where my face is. And he says to me, I'm going to make a prediction. I'm going to make a prediction. Now he's holding on to me, so I can't run away.
Yeah.
He's got a hold of me. I can run away, but I'll be carrying him with me. And I want to tell you, just for trivia nuts, no one has ever won a marathon with a blind guy holding on to him.
No.
Hasn't been done in history.
No.
Back to the ancient Greeks. You don't see any of the marathon winners doing 21 miles with a blind guy holding on to them. If your blind guy's holding on to you, don't bother running.
Right.
You're not going to win anything. He's holding on to me. And he said, I'm going to make a prediction. You know how psychics make predictions? They predict the future. I go, they don't, but okay. I know how they do it, but they don't do it. He goes, I want to make a prediction. I believe that within the next 10 years, you are going to believe what your father believed. And I say, you mean about where the car's parked and where my house is? He says, no, I mean that everything did not get here by accident. I say, you're talking God stuff, aren't you? He says, yes, I think you will find faith in 10 years. And I said, if God's so great, why can't you see? No, I didn't. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. Saying that would be horrible. Saying that would be rude. I said, could happen. Sure. He said, you think it could happen? Your mind is open. I said, yes. And you know something, Richard? You could go the other way too. And he said, well, no. I said, well, yes. And then he keeps holding on to me.
Oh, this is uncomfortable.
Yeah. And I'm not blind. And he holds on to me, and he then has this moment where I believe, this is the worst joke I've ever made, but it's true.
Yeah.
You should groan and you should hate me for this, but I believe he thinks he's looking in my eyes, but he's not. Because
But maybe in 10 years, he might be.
yeah. But what I do is, even though he's holding on to me, I fake where my face is so that he won't be looking right at me, because I think that's an important joke to do. I kind of do this little like, ha, you're not really looking at my eyes, because I'm doing this. I'm doing like that Egyptian thing, moving my head over the side. And then we have this really, really uncomfortable moment. And I say, thank you, Richard. He goes, no. I really believe that. And I say, I believe that you believe that. The fact that you believe it doesn't mean that you're right. And he goes, I really believe that. And I go, Richard, thank you. You're a great card magician, and it was great having you here, and it's really wonderful. And he goes, no. You will believe what your father believed. I go, thanks, Richard. Fine.
I'm going through the list of conversation enders. Can't seem to find the one gets me out of this one. Fire, Richard, fire!
You can't see it, but you'll feel the heat really soon. But boy, is he a nice guy.
Yeah.
And I've heard that his documentary called Deal or something? It's called Deal? I don't know what his documentary is called, but the documentary is just opening and is supposed to be absolutely wonderful in every way.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing I'm not supposed to talk about, anyway, I don't want to leave this on an uncomfortable note about Richard. He is a fabulous magician and a wonderful, wonderful guy and very kind. I'm just telling you that proselytizing is no better done by a blind guy than by a guy who can see.
Dealt is the name of his movie.
Dealt, yeah. And it's supposed to be
You know who
great.
told me that? Jesus.
And we have spent this week, I guess I can't say one group of people we're meeting with, but suffice to say, I met with a guy this last week and a group of people, but one of the guys in the group of people is a guy that Paul would go crazy over me meeting. Crazy.
You met Luigi.
But before that, so close you wouldn't believe it. But we also met earlier, with Gearbox. We're doing something with Randy Pitchford.
Yes.
And I actually saw the finished product of Desert Buzz VR.
Oh.
And it is amazing. It is amazing. 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 You get to write your name on a little. What makes it great is there's a lot of stuff to do. You write your name on a card, you pick up your time card, you punch it in, you walk out to the bus, you get in. It's really a lot of activity for 45 seconds. And then nothing for 8 hours. And I don't want to give too much away, but you're going to love this. There is a multiplayer option. You can now ride Desert Bus. And you get to sit on Desert Bus while someone else is driving. And this year's Desert Bus for Hope will have the VR version, and it will be out in November.
And that's going to have the charity function built into it?
I don't know how that's working.
Okay.
But it is for charity. I believe it's being given out free.
And did they select all the radio tracks for it?
We're all over it, man.
But so is Paul.
We were told by the Gearbox guys that they got something like 19 hours of stuff given to them. I guess Ready Rich sent to them.
Yeah.
And they said the stuff is amazing. They have one person they loved who does like an hour and a half detailing how to fold origami. Detailing every fold of origami. There had a lot of people who did stuff specifically, just them talking.
Yeah.
All of that will be on Desert Bus. And I made one suggestion. Okay, one suggestion that really made me laugh. I said, please, make it so that at full volume, it's barely audible. You can hear it, but you have to struggle. And they said, people hack that and have it on a full volume. I said, fine. Still do it that way. That'll be great.
Well, one of the tunes on there is Paul Mattingly's Long Distance.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, Desert Bus will be great. And it's going to be part of the new Penn and Teller VR experience, which we've been working on for a couple years now. And it's finally getting close, probably be coming out early in 2018. Now,
Oh, that's so exciting.
the name of our TV show, Bullshit,
Yeah.
was named by me.
Right.
The name of the show, Smoke and Mirrors, which abbreviates to S&M, was named by me.
Right.
The name Fool Us was Teller's idea, but I made sure it abbreviated to FU. The name of this new game, ready for this?
Yes.
Penn and Teller VR. Frankly, unfair, unkind, unnecessary, and underhanded, which abbreviates to PNT, FUUU, and U. So PNT, FUUU, and U will be out probably the first part of next year. And Handsome Jack, the magician?
Yes.
He's working on it. Brett Loudermilk, Sword Swallower?
Love Brett.
He's working on it too. And this wonderful, wonderful team, about 30 people who've been coding. And they got Teller during the window washer game. They got Teller to fall down. They got me to jump back Jack. The stuff is working really well.
Wow.
And we got some wonderful, wonderful things in there. The gag on it is it's mostly designed, you buy the game, but you don't really experience it much. It's all designed for when you bring a friend over and put the hat on them and what you do after that.
Oh, cool.
So there's all sorts of things. We were working on that all week, and it was really, really wonderful. And now that I've covered PNT, FU, U, and U, take some questions.
I was going to say, we do want to talk about, we basically were pranked when we went out to coffee.
Yeah. Well, Matt and I, since we've been doing podcasting, don't ever hang out.
It's true.
We used to hang out all the time.
It's true. And so when you said let's get coffee, I was like, oh, I'm talking off mic. This will be exciting.
Yeah.
And right away, you're like, how's your family? I was like, that's what we should ask each other when we're not on microphones.
Yeah.
But we had a waitress come over, and they started to
You
recognize.
like the way his hair looks since I messed it up?
Yeah, I'm never gonna touch it. We had a waitress came over and recognized Penn, started talking to him, and then Penn said, but you haven't seen the show. You haven't seen Penn and Teller. She goes, no, I haven't. I haven't been meaning to. And then I, just to fuck with her, because she didn't realize she was burying herself, I go, oh, what shows have you seen? This is just my usual setup I do when I get stuck having lunch with Penn. If they say they haven't seen the show, then I say, so you like all of those shows more than Penn and Teller? It's always the thing I have loaded. So they become immediately embarrassed and usually walk away. And she goes, I've seen different shows around town, a few. I guess the last one I saw was 50 Shades, the parody.
Absolutely true. Every word.
And I was like, let me get this straight. Of all the shows you can see in Vegas, you have not seen Penn and Teller. She goes, you have seen 50 Shades of Parody. She goes, I loved it. It was so funny. And Penn's like, you saw him. Which may or may not have been true, but who cares? But I could not believe the waitress had seen that show and not Penn and Teller.
She had not.
It was very funny.
She also told about how she went to see a hypnotism
Yeah,
show.
that was where it kept lowering the bar. I still haven't seen Penn and Teller, but I did go to this hypnotist show at the Planet Hollywood.
Yeah, and she said that I wasn't really hypnotized. I just played along.
And
Bingo.
No surprised looks on our faces. I think she was expecting that. We're like, you don't say. And she said, by the end, I was miming giving a blowjob.
Yeah.
So well that I won. I won the miming the blowjob contest, and my mother bought the video. Then I said, when waitressing, you should lead with that story. And I think you're going to see a lot more tips.
True.
Yeah.
And then the other server was over there next to her,
Yeah.
listening to the whole conversation. And when she described that and buying the DVD,
Yeah.
she said, I want to see that show. Right?
Yeah.
She didn't say Penn and Teller, didn't say 50 Shades. She heard the whole thing and then said, I want to see that show. So we sold tickets to the hypnotism show at Planet Hollywood. That's what, when you meet Matt and I in person, when you're done with that, what you want to do is see a hypnotism show at Vegas. That's our sales technique. I want to take questions.
Yes, let's take some
Anybody
questions.
got a question, anything?
The microphone is floating around there.
It's floating around. I can't see, so let's hope the microphone works. Yeah.
Hey, Penn. My name's Ian.
Hello, Ian.
Hey, so on the way here, I'm a magician, by the way.
Good.
On the way here, I was reading Professor Hoffman, More Modern Miracles, which not so modern anymore. But I got a question that you've never
A
really...
little piece of advice, don't ever name anything modern. Because then you end up with postmodern, then you're done.
Yeah. So my question was...
Postmodern Miracles would be a great name for a Penn and Teller book. Go ahead.
So my question is like, I work in a magic shop. And I see a lot of kids come in learning magic from YouTube. What is your thought on YouTube magicians?
Well, first of all, every magician under 25 is better than I will ever be. And part of that is the internet. A big part of that is the internet. And a big part of that is YouTube. I think learning magic from videos, a lot of old people will trash that idea for all sorts of reasons. My reason for trashing it is that video is not easily searchable as text. You know, Teller goes crazy because people send him tricks on DVD, and he wants to find out the stuff he wants to learn. And if you've got a 25-minute DVD teaching one trick, it's very hard to find out the stuff you want to know. Whereas if you've got 5 pages, 10 pages, you can look through and say, okay, this is the thing I want. I'll go back to this. And you can do random access in text really easily. People forget how useful books are. That's Teller's main problem, is you can't jump around. Now, you're going to read the whole thing eventually, but maybe you want to know if you've got the props you need or what moves you're going to have to use before you see the effect. Maybe you want to know that out of order. Or maybe you're really, really good at a top change, but you're not good at a second deal. And so you want to skip over the whole top change thing, go to this other section. There's all sorts of stuff you can't do, so it's a big time waster. My problem with it is that it's less intimate. When you're reading a book, you're loading it in through your filters. And there's a story that Martin Mull tells of when he wasn't a professor at RISD, but he was a teaching assistant or professor's assistant at RISD. I don't want to get his credits wrong, but he was teaching at RISD in some way or another. And he was hearing another professor talk. And there was one student there who went to his professor and said, I just love Van Gogh, and I just want to do perfectly Van Gogh, and I'm afraid that I'm losing my own style. I don't have my own style. I really don't have my own style. And the professor said to him, we have one Van Gogh here at RISD. I'm going to work so that you can be in here overnight, every night when the museum is closed, and set up your easel and copy that Van Gogh as accurately as you can. All night, every night, you work on that Van Gogh. And you work on it as many times as you want. And when you get that Van Gogh exactly where you got it, as close a copy as possible, the difference between the Van Gogh and your Van Gogh, that's your style. I thought that was really profound. And I think when learning magic, reading through and having those words mean slightly different things, and being able to switch your perspective instantly from what it would look like to see it to what it would look like to do it. But what you're able to do in terms of imagination is so much greater with text. So I remember reading magic books when I was a child, you know, and the way I would picture being in the parlor and what the audience was like and what it would feel like to be there and how this pattern would roll off my lips was a wonderful, transcendent experience. If I'd have seen the DVD of some dipshit in a hoodie mumbling through it, I might not have that inspiration as much. All that being said, there's some stuff, like when I was trying to learn The Gambler's Ballad with Johnny Thompson, I had to learn this false table shuffle that's fairly difficult. I needed to see it from different angles. And I used video that Jared Koft gave me. You know, we shot video all around it, and I wanted to look at it to learn it right. So I think there's all these tools that you can use. And the greatest thing is, it used to be that it was a boys' club, you know. But now, one of the things we're getting from the internet is girls, and in the future, women, doing really, really good magic. And I think it's going to happen, I've said this many times before, what's going to happen in magic is what happened in comedy 5 years ago, and women just took over all the hip, smart stuff. And I think that's going to be happening really soon. So yeah, I think that when people ask me for the briefest advice possible on magic, what I give them is read. I give them that one verb. Because, and I don't even mean just read magic books, read everything. You know, Phil Proctor told me if I want to do comedy, to know everything, just study everything, because the more you know, the better you'll be. So I'm not one of those people who just say videos are useless, but videos can be a lot slower way to learn from Teller's point of view, and a lot less inspiring way to learn from my point of view.
Thank you.
You want to just hand the mic to the guy next to you? Would you go to somebody else? Who's it going to? Okay.
Hi,
Go.
my name is Ted. My
Ted.
question is, would you like to feel my breasts?
Yes. Why don't you go? Very nice.
All right.
Now we know what every question will be from now on. Yes.
Hi there. At Scoopfest, I've been going by Manfred.
Okay.
Actually, similar to what you covered in response to his question, you deal a lot with lyrics and writing and music and talking and speech and the beautiful fluidity of our language. I'm just wondering, are there any phrases in the current zeitgeist that don't sit quite right with you?
Oh, yeah.
Or are there any old ones or ones that you just don't hear that often that you'd like to see more representation out of?
One exercise that I just do automatically, and I realize I've been doing this for years, is whenever something comes in to the vocabulary, like throw under the bus, above my pay grade, first word problems, threw up a little bit in my mouth. There's a ton of them. I can't think of them all now. Whenever I hear one of those, really more than twice, because all of those are things that are pretty interesting if someone says it once, you know. Second time, it's kind of okay. But if I hear it more than twice, I try to not use it. Now, I'm not always able to do that. It requires quick thinking. But it was like when I go through periods of time when I choose not to swear. I don't do that for anything resembling moral reasons or social reasons. I do that because it just throws my rhythm off, makes me think of something else. Now, Stephen Fry has I don't know what it is. It's like something like 130 hours of the Sherlock Holmes, the unabridged Sherlock Holmes on audiobook. And I bought that. I've been listening to it for months now. I'm about 30 hours in, driving back and forth to work. And Stephen Fry is one of the best speakers we have. And I'd never read any of the Sherlock Holmes. I knew nothing about it. And I find listening to all of that, which is all out-of-date English, but understandable, unlike Goddard. But understandable words that are used, but just not used that way. I find that when I read like the electric Kool-Aid acid test, I try to put as much of that rhythm and style into my day-to-day speech as possible. When I was reading the Tiny Tim biographies, I changed the wording of 3 or 4 things in the show to be Tiny Tim. I think you can fall into, and especially on social media, you can fall into this habit of having sentences that every sentence you're saying is one you've heard before. And
I'm shaking my head at that.
I think that the reason that English is such a powerful language and the reason that we have Shakespeare is that we're a language that takes in any other language and that allows multiple words for many, many things and multiple styles. And I just think that really using that all you can. So I try to mimic language, but I try to mimic different language than other people are mimicking. So there'll be times when I'll go through a whole week or two when I'm talking like a beatnik, because I'm reading that. I try to go through other stuff and just see what sticks, what kinds of things I like. And occasionally I'll hear someone say something really, really witty and realize that it's something that other people are saying too. There was a while people were using weapon grade stupid, They were using those kinds of things that I just really loved, but then I heard it more than once. So I would say that what I try to do is when I feel one of those phrases being perfect, I try to make sure that I say something different, but also at the same time, and this is really important, I try to think of what I'm feeling that I want to communicate that is being pulled over a little bit by the cliche. So when you say throw someone under the bus, once you've said that, you've pulled it into that one image. You've pulled it into Celebrity Apprentice in that time a few years ago, but you've also not given the nuance you may feel. You've given over your nuance to the cliche. For instance, you may be talking about betrayal. You may be talking about cowardice. You may be talking about panic. And those are different things that are all said with throw that person under the bus. And I would like to think which one I'm feeling and then try to find a way to say that. Even if it's less picturesque, it may be more accurate. And being picturesque with someone else's language, with a cliche, I think is less valid and less fun.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah. And saying all that, I just threw up a little bit in my mouth. I'm going to do this. I'm going to take some more.
Yeah.
So think about who has good questions, because we have about another 20 minutes of questions. So make sure yours is really good. Lyft. We love Lyft, don't we?
Love it.
Yeah, we just love Lyft. And it seems like the drivers are wicked happy
Yes.
doing Lyft. Have you done Lyft?
Have I taken a Lyft?
No, I know that, but have you driven?
I've not driven for
I know
Lyft.
Godot drives Lyft now and again.
Yeah.
I really, really likes it. Lyft knows that their drivers are what keep them moving. So they do everything they can to make sure their drivers are happy on every trip. It's a simple formula. Happy drivers mean happy passengers. Maybe that's why 9 out of 10 Lyft rides get a perfect 5 rating. I now do just Lyft when I come into the airport.
Yeah.
Perfect 5-star rating, I should say. You can earn hundreds of dollars a week plus tips. Want to earn more money? Drive more. It's never been easier to give yourself a raise. I also love doing tips on Lyft because I know that they're getting that information after they drive away, and that makes me happy.
Oh, nice,
They're
yeah.
driving away. They turn on the radio, turn up full to music that they might have been self-conscious about. Which I also, when I'm in a Lyft car,
Yeah.
I always say, turn up whatever you want to hear.
Oh, good.
And then I go on the phone after and turn it down. Lyft was the first ride-share platform with tipping built right into the app because getting tips shouldn't depend on your passenger having a crumpled bill in their pocket. You keep 100% of the
$5
tips.
bill, Glenn.
Yeah. And they add up fast. Drivers have paid over $200 million since the feature was first introduced. And that was the first two people.
Yeah.
First two people that did that. And Express Pay lets you get paid almost instantly instead of waiting for weeks. Lyft has even taken the guesswork out of pickups. Oh, they mean for the driving, yeah. The new AMP device uses color coding to help passengers find their drivers. This is really good.
I love that.
I like that. I'll tell you, I use it from the airport all the time.
Yeah.
I used to get like a fancy limo to and from the airport,
Yeah.
or get someone to drive me. Now I don't. I just use a Lyft and I'm happy. They go right up, they drive home, I have to hit the little code. It's really good. So join the ride-sharing company that believes in treating its people better. Go to Lyft, lyft.com/ today. And you can get a $500 new driver bonus. That's lyft.com/. Lyft.com/. It's a limited time only and terms apply. So get there as a Lyft driver. Do you have another question for somebody?
Greetings.
No, that was it too
Nope.
in the front row?
I'm right here.
Okay.
To the same place that you looked before.
Okay, good.
Greetings. I'm Andrew. I'm from St. Louis, where you're going to be soon.
Yeah, we are. We are.
So-
Are the riots over? Is it safe?
Yes.
Good.
Especially where you're going, because you're going to the county.
Okay, good. Because we were going to play Houston, and that show got canceled. I guess there was something that happened there.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Totally different situation. You'll be able to find Provel cheese,
Okay, good.
as you talked before. And I actually have a sports question.
Good. I have a sports answer. That is above my pay grade.
Yeah. It's St. Louis, so I'm not going to ask you about the NFL. But
What does that mean?
Get it?
No. What does that mean?
They recently lost their sports team and they're quite upset about it.
Ravens.
Close. Say it again.
Raiders.
No,
the other LA team you know.
Rams.
Yes.
Didn't even know that was a football team.
But you have talked about hockey before.
I have.
Did anyone ever explain what icing to you?
Somebody did, and I still didn't understand it.
Would you like another explanation?
I would, very much so.
Okay, it's a safety thing.
By the way, this is the perfect TED Talk question, because it's not a question, it's someone giving a statement. Go ahead.
So it's a safety thing. So because they're going, I think, 60 feet, if anyone Canadians want to correct me, they're going 60 feet down
56.
the ice. Thank you. At full speed. And so in order to not have them bash against each other and against the ice, if it crosses enough lines, they say, no, stop chasing it. Don't injure yourself.
So if you don't touch the puck for X amount of time, you then can't touch it?
It's a matter of how many lines it crosses. So the center line. And then
lines mean distance, right?
yes.
Okay.
So yes.
And you're not allowed to touch it, so someone else has to touch it before you can touch it?
Well, no one really touches it.
Well, they have a stick.
Is
that correct?
No one sticks it.
I
either.
cannot wait to take you to a Raiders game.
Yeah, no one sticks it, so no one is going full speed all the way down the ice where they would put their head into the boards.
How come I still don't understand this? If you're hitting it, what's that?
Yeah, the play
the play
stops.
stops.
Yes.
Puck is going too fast, too far. We're going to stop it so you don't bang into each other, you stupid Canadians, right?
Perfect.
Got it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What is it called? I just realized that I'm a hockey sports fan, but you hit the puck, smack the puck, slap the puck? Shoot. Shoot or pass. Shoot, pass, or dump? All right, now we're getting also tonight's activities as well.
Shoot, pass, or dunk?
Dump.
Dump, yep.
Yeah.
Anybody other questions there? Yeah, go ahead. Just talk.
Andrew the Canadian here.
Oh. At least it's not Muslims I'm in trouble with. Canadians are kind.
Do me a favor.
Yeah.
Ask him to ask this question in an American accent.
Is that the guy? Would you ask this question in American accent, please?
I can try. Now, if you're since you have enough qualifications to run for president, obviously more qualified than the current one.
Well, yes, but the first part's not true. Second part is.
Do you think your name under the Libertarian ballot could bring the Libertarian Party up to Democratic Republican status?
No. I have very, very low real name recognition. I mean, in terms of anybody really in America, I don't think people know Penn very much at all. And I mean, I'm known a little bit in magic, and I'm known in people that watch certain shows, but not others. I mean, we still have people coming to our show all the time who say, my son told us to come see the show. We'd never heard of you. And that's Penn and Teller, which is more recognizable than Penn. I think that a very small number of people have any recognition on my last name at all, and those who have recognition on my first name think it's Sean. I also would be a terrible, terrible politician. I mean, I would be, I believe, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think in many senses it's true. I'd be worse than Trump. I don't have the kind of qualifications you need to have. I'm not good at of something. I mean, when you look at what like Lyndon Johnson did with civil rights, there had to be a sense of you can't have all or nothing in running a country. You have to be able to get behind ideas you don't believe yourself. And I don't have any skills at that. And I also don't want to dismiss these things. I don't want to say I'm better than this. All of these things are really, really good things. And but they're not things that I personally respect for myself. I also brought, and I realize this is a whole different scale, but when James Randi was starting the James Randi Educational Foundation, I thought it was a really, really bad idea. And I argued with Randy intensely about it, because I think Randy should be a loose cannon. I think he should say whatever pops into his head and take responsibility himself. And I've always been hesitant. I know this is make your Penn and Teller joke all you want, but I've always been hesitant to speak for other people. I do speak for Teller, that's correct, but that's within a showbiz context. I remember the astronaut got in touch with me who's doing the asteroid program, and asked me to be on the board of directors. And I said, you don't want me on the board of directors. If I say something stupid or wrong or that you don't agree with, it hurts your funding. So not only do I not think I should run for president, not only do I not think I should be head of the Libertarians, but I shouldn't even be on a board of directors, because you need someone who is measured and thoughtful and can put the cause and the best for all people ahead of what stupid shit happens to pop into their head that second. And we're seeing now a very frightening and heartbreaking example of what happens when someone in a supposedly leadership position decides that what's going on in their own head is more important than their country. And I'm afraid I'd be guilty of a lot of that, although I'd like
Would you have threatened to wipe North Korea off the map in front of the UN?
I wouldn't do anything that stupid, but that doesn't mean that's better is not good.
You said in some ways you'd be worse than Trump, but I just want to get that out of the way.
I would not. Also,
everything else is fine.
Here's something else that I want to say. Let's throw Trump out of this, but and I know that what you're saying about running for Libertarian does not mean winning and being president, but forgive me for taking this argument to the extreme. Obama, a really good guy, a really smart guy, Obama chose to make decisions. I'd almost say had to make decisions, but I'm not quite willing to do that. Chose to make decisions that would kill other people. I don't know how you do that. I think that I don't think Trump, I'm afraid, can this be true? This can't be true. This cannot be true. But my sense of Trump is that he has not sat down and thought about this. It can't be true, but boy, it feels that way. But Obama, smart, compassionate, fair, honest, has to sit down. I'm not even talking about American service people. Let's throw that all out. Let's talk about a drone strike on a known terrorist that you can prove in a court of law. You can prove to everybody wants to kill people that I love. Sending that drone out, I don't think I'd be able to do. And I don't think I would be able, if you told me that a guy was going to attack my daughter this afternoon and try to kill her, and I was able to push a button and have that person killed. I might be able to make the decision to do that, but it would ruin my life. I would never have another night's sleep. I would never have another moment of peace. I know that in times that I've been physically threatened myself, had a knife pulled on me, gun, that when I was weighing my options, I knew that the decision to kill that other person, even if I was able to do it, would ruin my life to the extent that it would not be worth living. To be president of the United States, to be president of any country in this century, right now, even though we have what Pinker calls the pacifist dilemma, I think you have to be willing to make decisions for other people that could ruin their life or in some cases end their life. And I don't think I would ever be able to do that. I will even go so far as to say it's possible that the President of the United States has to be able to say, in order for nuclear arms to be a deterrent, the President of the United States has to, at some place in his or her heart, be able to say, I would use this. And the fact of the matter is, I'm afraid that I would watch my country be destroyed and not be able to push the button to fight back. And I don't think that can ever be elected in good conscience to President of the United States of America. I think the good way to put that is that I'm a pacifist. The bad way to put that is I'm a coward. And either way, I will cop to, but I'm not the guy.
Well, then I'll be your vice president.
Because you are willing to kill anybody.
Yeah.
I remember when that movie came out. The movie came out that you had a button.
Yeah.
And you could push the button, and you would kill one other person somewhere on the planet at random.
Yeah.
And you would get $1 million.
Yeah.
And that was the dilemma. When Jonesy was watching the trailer, and they said, you push this button at random and it kills someone else in the world, Jonesy was going, I'd be pushing it. And I go, Jonesy, they haven't even gotten to the part where you get $1 million. He said, I don't need it. I'd be pushing it. I'm not that kind of guy. Even if you told me it was a person on death row, I couldn't do it. I mean, Bill Clinton, during the election, flew down to Arkansas to essentially, figuratively, not literally, flip the switch on a mentally challenged
Arkansas death row inmate.
Death row inmate, yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't even make that decision. So, my statement to the UN would be something like, I don't care what any country does to us, we won't fight back. Good night. You want that for your president? Well, I do, but no one else does.
Canada is like, finally.
Hi, I'm Carlos. I live in San Diego right now, and
I dropped my frozen waffle in the desert. You know what I got? San Diego. Go ahead. Yes.
all right, how do I follow that?
You know, that's why Eric Clapton was called Slow Hand. Not because of his perfect technique and not moving his hand too much. Not because of his child falling out the window, not important. But he was actually called Slow Hand because he spent so much time tuning that the audience would start going. Because Eric Clapton wanted to play in tune, which he thought was more important in the 60s than everybody else did. Go ahead.
Okay, so in a way, you almost answered the question. When you talk about morality from, when I was listening to Penn Sunday School or Penn Radio, you use the subjective my morality in general when you're saying, like, my morality does not dictate that that is okay. Do you separate morality and ethics? Like, as in, an ethical claim can be one that is past that kind of subjective preference.
Yeah, I've never really known. I mean, Rob Pike, the aforementioned Rob Pike, and I had several conversations with dictionaries in front of us, trying to really separate the difference between ethics and morality. And I don't know that I really understand it in a way that I can use that intelligently. The two different. How do you define those two differently?
Okay, so morality would be possibly aesthetic-based, so not necessarily universal. Like you would say, so universalizable would be maybe like property rights. That'd be ethics, right? So it's like self-ownership, and then what's dictated there on out, like you own your labor or the products of your labor, versus say my personal morality is I want to live a life of integrity and one where I'm honest with myself, right? That's necessarily subjective because it's based off the value proposition.
So morality deals with how you act, and ethics deals with how society should act?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not sure the dictionary bears you out on that.
No,
Let's go with that.
probably wrong,
Go on.
but yeah. No, I'm honestly, I'm just asking from your perspective on it because, I mean, honestly, Penn and Teller bullshit introduced me to libertarianism and atheism. I mean, it was a huge, thing for me, and I ended up getting really into these topics and tits at 15, but I wasn't allowed to watch it. But yeah, so the question for me then is if it's necessarily subjective, right? Or if you're saying it's subjective, then putting it in kind of a political way, where does the weight and the strength come from of ethical claims if they're not universal?
Oh, I see. They are universal. There's just fewer of them in your definition than you would have in morality. All I'll be able to speak to this intelligently is not quite perfectly remembered parts of The Moral Landscape by Sam Harris. I'm not sure he's right about everything in that book, but there's certainly that subject is covered really well. Also, Richard Dawkins talks about that. There seems to be some evidence that other people have done the work that you can get ethics out of logic for just what we want for other people. Now, the problem with that is you end up crossing the territories that I'm uncomfortable with, like should everybody want to be educated? Should everybody want to live as long as they can, and so on? I have trouble with that on the edges. But my thinking on this is just glosses on what Sam Harris wrote in The Moral Landscape. Whenever someone asks this question on Twitter, some version of this, it's usually a religious person questioning me, I always refer them to the Sam Harris book. What I find is that there seems to be among atheists an agreement on many of the big points of morality and ethics with all major religions, which leads me to believe that when the religions disagree on almost everything, but there's one place the Venn diagram overlaps, and also atheists overlap that too, it seems like there may be something either logical or innate And I don't really care very much which one it is that makes that morality universal. But I do not believe in moral relativism, and most atheists are accused of that, but I really do think there is a morality outside of me.
Thank you.
You got time for whoever's got the microphone, look at the people around you, and if you don't have a better question than them, give it to someone else.
I'm the only one here, so you're
Okay,
welcome. Don't worry, this one's a little bit lighter. I enjoy hearing you talk about some of these shows you got to see when you were younger, like in the punk scene and stuff. I was wondering if there were any that were stuck out to you as like one of those cool seminal shows that people missed if they weren't there.
Well, I saw Patti Smith pretty early on. I can tell you the year, because it was the year that You Light Up My Life was #1. And I remember that vividly because Patti Smith came out and said, if I'm a pop star, I should do pop songs. And she sang You Light Up My Life, which was pretty great. I think that every kind of punk person should have done as their encore, whatever the #1 song is at that moment. I had tickets. Oh, man. Teller and I both had tickets to see the Sex Pistols in Atlanta, their first American appearance. And we had tickets in Atlanta at that little shopping mall at the Country Western Bar, that classic show. We had tickets to see that, each of us did. And then we got a Penn and Teller gig that night. And Penn and Teller gigs were rare enough and we were broke enough that we had to take it. So we chose to work rather than see, and I guess that's the right choice. The show I was talking about a little while ago, while not exactly punk, was pretty interesting. Teller and I were driving across the country. I think we were trying to get from, I guess it wouldn't be across the country that way, but the other way. We're trying to get from, I think, the Minnesota Renaissance Festival to the Texas Renaissance Festival, which would have put it before the 80s or something, late 70s. And I had gotten David Allan Coe's Motherfucker record, the underground record that's a white album cover that he only sold at his shows, which has, I will just say, tremendously racist and tremendously sexist, and David Allan Coe has disavowed that. And so I certainly am not supporting the ideas on this record. But the music on the record, the style of the record, and certain tracks, and by certain tracks I mean like 2. I think Jimmy Buffett Doesn't Live in Key West Anymore, I still kind of like. But there was a kind of punk and country coming together with David Allan Coe. For those who don't know David Allan Coe, he did supposedly Time for Murder 1, crazy guy in reform school, not out of prison until he was 30, and crazy, crazy, crazy. And we found out that he was playing at Gilley's in Texas, which is owned by Mickey Gilley's, right? I think so.
I don't know.
Is that right? Mickey Gilley's came to our show a while ago, and I said to him, we saw David Allan Coe there, and he said, I was so afraid of David Allan Coe, I wouldn't go in that night. And we never booked him again.
Wow.
Now, David Allan Coe has a song called Long-Haired Redneck. Long hair just can't cover up my redneck, is the part of the chorus. And he says, country DJs all think I'm an outlaw. They'd never come and see me in these dives where bikers stare at cowboys who are laughing at the hippies who are praying they'll get out of here alive. That's one of the verses. David Allan Coe had a very, very rough crowd. We saw he was playing at Gilley's. We were very excited because we were in town. I guess Gilley's is Dallas, maybe? I don't know, Texas. Houston. Like I said, Houston. And we went in to Gilley's. Now, at that time, I was wearing nothing but blue SWAT team jumpsuits. Okay? That's what I wore all the time. And my hair in 1979 was crew cut. Okay? Wearing a blue jumpsuit because I liked Dawn of the Dead, and I wanted to wear the SWAT team suit that the lead guy, Ken, was wearing in Dawn of the Dead. So I got a bunch of jumpsuits like that, and I didn't wear anything else. So I'm in a blue SWAT team jumpsuit with steel-toed boots, with the top of the SWAT team jumpsuit tucked into the boots, and brutally short hair like Lou Reed on Transformer, with very, very metrosexual sunglasses, like Bono sunglasses over all of that, and nail polish. Teller had his hair down past his shoulders, curly, and was dressed in a kind of flamboyant, puffy shirt. We went into Gillies to see David Allan Coe, and I was hungry, okay? And there was a drink minimum, so I ordered 2 glasses of milk, and Teller ordered club soda. And the 2 of us sat down at a table to see David Allan Coe. Where bikers stare at cowboys who are laughing at the hippies who are praying they'll get out of here alive. Teller was saying, we're not going to live through this. And I said, it's going to be great. And he said, look at how people are looking at us. And I said, we'll be okay once the show starts. Well, I was wrong again. When the show started, it got worse. David Allan Coe came out on stage to these bikers and cowboys and 2 of what would pass for hippies. And he was the most aggressive toward the audience I had ever seen. Now remember, at this time, I'm a Sex Pistols fan. You know, I was, oh, does it fail to be cheated? And spitting and throwing beer bottles. It was nothing compared to David Allan Coe. This was not suburban children pretending to be tough guys. These were guys that when he would say the word prison, the cheering would drown out the next 2 lines. Yeah! Right? And David Allan Coe went on stage, and then he did not like the reaction the audience gave him to one of his early songs. One of the first 2 songs, he didn't feel they applauded enough. So he said, fuck you, you don't deserve my music, you're getting Eagles. Then he turned his back on the audience, stood over by the drum kit, and the bass player stepped up to the mic, and the band played the first side of Eagles' greatest hits. And after every song, they were screamed at and pelted and beer bottles going, and David Allan Coe would just turn around and go, fuck you. And finally, after they played like 20 minutes of Eagles, he grabbed the mic again and said, are you ready to act like men now? Because if you don't act right, you could get more Eagles. And then people would yell stuff at him. He'd just kick off the stage at him. Fuck you. It was just the most amazing thing I'd ever seen. And there was no sort of reaction, no sort of tether to reality whatsoever. It was just a crazy person on stage. And I mean, everybody, none of this was like leather jackets like the Ramones that we knew back in New York. It wasn't like happy, playful leather jackets. These were leather jackets that were there to stop knives from going into you as quickly as they might if you weren't wearing it. I mean, this was, it was, you know, Gillies is big.
Yeah.
And we were really, I mean, so terrified the whole time. And also so proud to be there. And Teller, who, when I met him, had listened to nothing but classical music, and he had one pop album, The Beatles, Yesterday and Today. Everything else was Bach and Beethoven and Stravinsky, nothing else. So I've been teaching him about music. So Teller had never even envisioned the idea of a country western bar. And there we were at Gillies. And then many years later, in the 90s, Teller and I were playing in Vegas, and David Allan Coe was playing at like, what is it, Arizona Sam's? What is it? Some place with
Yes.
Sam's. And Teller and I went to see him. And it was really nostalgic for us. And we went there. And David Allan while we were sitting there in the audience, once again, terrified, David Allan Coe said, I got 2 friends in the audience tonight. And we went, oh man, Willie's here. Waylon's here. So we're looking around for who it's going to be. And he goes, 2 friends of mine, I used to tour with them, done a lot of shows with them, spent a lot of nights on buses with these guys. Ladies and gentlemen, Penn and Teller. We had never met him in our life. Stood up, waved. People went crazy cheering for us. Show ends, and his bodyguard comes out and goes, come on backstage. And Teller and I go backstage with David Allan Coe, and he has a conversation with us, recalling the good old days when we toured a magic show together. He then did a card trick for us that I could not discern what the trick was. And he was very happy with how it had gone. We picked a card, he shuffled, he pulled out another one. And David Allan Coe, since then, every time he comes to Vegas, comes backstage, hangs out with us, talks about the good old days. David Allan Coe really shows you where how not real in a beautiful way punk was. I remember this. I was just telling a friend about this. It's so beautiful. Johnny Rotten's mother, and I will not get this quotation right because I never do, but Johnny Rotten's mother was interviewed right after Nevermind the Bollocks came out. And Johnny Rotten's mother said, my son, who's 19 years old, said he was the Antichrist. And the way people are reacting, you'd think they believed him. I just thought it was the most beautiful thing ever. Now,
That's beautiful.
I'm sure there are some tough guys in the world who say, well, David Allan Coe isn't real either. Gangster rap is more real, this and that. I will tell you that when I first heard David Allan Coe in the 70s, I was still seduced a little bit by he's the real deal.
Yeah.
You know, Sinatra wasn't the real gangster. Dean Martin was the real gangster. And, you know, all the rap music, these guys really are firing guns. They're really going to jail. I will say with a great deal of pride, the romance of the real violence and the real deal has completely gone away. But the love for those who live outside and operate their life crazy in the arts is still there. And David Allan Coe has never, in the time I've known him and followed him, hurt somebody. And therefore, him flashing his madness all over the place is beautiful with me. So I would say, if you want to talk about weird shows I've seen, David Allan Coe at Gillies in the 70s, sitting next to Teller, one of the greatest moments of my life. And you know something? You've been a pretty good audience, but not good enough. Fuck you. You get Eagles. That was Penn Sunday School. I was so hoping it would be Hotel California. You know, next week, Kurt Anderson, both shows, Monday and Wednesday, will all be Kurt Anderson. That was Penn Sunday School. And his book, Fantasyland, How America Went Haywire, is a great, great book. And Kurt is a fabulous guy. We talked for an hour and 40 minutes. Penn Sunday School. And I'll tell you, Scoopfest, it's the greatest, man. Go get laid. Peace.